A millionaire's life-changing discovery. Ex-wife, pregnant and serving in a restaurant revealed. Jake Thompson knew the price of success. He had clawed his way up from nothing to become a millionaire in a bustling suburban town. He reveled in the luxuries of life, the sprawling mansion, the fancy cars, and the flashes of technology only he could innovate. But in the quiet corners of his mind, he felt a hollow pang, like an unfinished song that echoed in the silence. This day was supposed to be just another rare moment of leisure, a break amid the chaos. Instead, it would be a moment that unraveled everything he thought he knew. As he walked into the quaint family-owned restaurant, the aromas of home-cooked meals filled his senses, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of his corporate office. Then, there she was, Rachel, his ex-wife. Her smile lit the dimly lit dining area, a warmth that felt like summer sunlight brushing against a wintry chill. But it wasn't just Rachel he noticed. It was the undeniable curve of her baby bump, a clear sign that her life had taken a direction he hadn't anticipated. The world around him blurred as time halted, dragging him back to bittersweet memories. The laughter at their kitchen table, the dreams they shared, now feeling like ghosts. Watching her deftly navigate tables, taking orders with an air of purpose, Jake couldn't shake the guilt coiling in his chest. Memories crashed over him like waves. Those sleepless nights where his ambition drowned out her needs, the promises that lay broken like shards of glass on the floor of their life together. Deep down, he understood. He had sacrificed not just their love, but also her dreams. The realization stung like a bitter lemon on an open wound. In a moment of courage that felt like grasping the fraying edges of hope, Jake finally approached her. "Hey, Rachel." His voice trembled, weighted by the past. "I want to help. Just let me support you." The words came out, but Rachel's eyes narrowed. "My life isn't a charity benefit, Jake," she shot back. Pride radiated from her like an indomitable force. "I'll make my own way. I always have." He felt his heart twist. It wasn't just about money. He realized Rachel didn't want a handout. She wanted acknowledgement. In a breathless exchange, she talked about the countless late nights she spent waiting for him, her dreams tucked away to support his ambitions. Each word was a dagger, piercing straight through his facade of success. Jake stood frozen, stunned by the weight of her sacrifices that he had taken for granted all those years. She was a warrior, battling life with every ounce of strength pouring from her heart. The enormity of his oversight crashed down on him, leaving him grasping for clarity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake stood on the threshold of regret, an urgent question spiraled in his mind. Could he really change? Was the man he had become capable of rebuilding the connections he had once shattered? The realization hung in the air, heavy with a promise of rekindled hope. Could he step forward instead of retreating into the shadows of the life he built? The tension festered in silence, leaving readers on the edge of discovery, eagerly pondering. What would Jake decide? Would he reach for redemption, or continue down a path of lonely success? Jake felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Rachel stood just a few feet away, radiating strength and determination, while he felt like a paper boat caught in a storm, barely holding it together. Images of the life they once shared flashed before his eyes. The late-night talks about their future, the way she believed in him, even when the odds were against them. Now, all that seemed like an ancient dream, one that had been buried under his relentless pursuit of success. "I'm not here to take over your life," he managed, trying to bridge the chasm of hurt between them. I just want a chance to be part of it. For the baby. For you. The last word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken feelings that had turned to dust over time. Rachel's expression softened for a mere second, but then it hardened again like steel. You don't get to just waltz back in as if nothing happened. Her voice quivered but remained resolute. I built this life on my own, Jake. I can do it again. A subtle shake of her head signaled that she wouldn't be swayed so easily. The truth hung thick between them, and Jake's heart raced as clarity struck. He couldn't undo the past, but he could start anew. Help me understand, Rachel. Tell me how to make it right. I don't want to be the man I was. Not anymore. He hesitated, searching her eyes for a glimpse of the connection they once shared. In the flickering light of the restaurant, her gaze bore into him, revealing layers of emotions, hurt, anger, but also a flicker of something else. It was the yearning for a different path. You have no idea the sacrifices I've made, Rachel responded, her voice a mixture of frustration and pain. It's not just about money or a job. It's about trust. I gave you my trust once, and look where that landed me. He couldn't deny it. She was right. The casualties of his ambition had cost them both dearly. With a lump in his throat, he continued, What if I want to rebuild that trust, even if it means starting from scratch? There was a tremor in his voice, an honesty that resonated in the worn-out diners around them. Rachel crossed her arms, eyeing him like a detective about to dissect a suspect's alibi. You think this is easy for me? Just walking in and acting like you want to change? Her resolve momentarily wavered, revealing the vulnerability beneath. Every day I remind myself that I can do this alone, but I can't help but wonder, what if you're serious? What if you really mean it? The tide of hope rose within Jake. I only wish I could show you. I want to be there. But I need your trust, Rachel. Just a piece of it. I'll earn the rest, I promise. The sincerity in his voice felt raw and real, like a breakthrough waiting to happen. Silence stretched between them, suffused with both hesitation and potential. The restaurant's clatter faded, leaving just the two of them in a fragile bubble of possibility. As if sensing the change in the air, Rachel's expression softened momentarily, revealing a glimmer of the woman he once loved. Fine, she finally said, her tone cautious yet curious. But this has to be on my terms. There are no guarantees. Jake's heart leapt. This was their chance. A foot in the door he thought had been closed for good. I understand, and I'll fight for it. Rachel turned away to serve another table, but Jake could see the threads of their past weaving through the present. Maybe they could build something new together after all. But just as he felt hope rising, a shadow crossed Rachel's face, a flicker of doubt. A new challenge loomed on the horizon, and Jake had no idea what lay ahead. In the quiet after her words, he couldn't help but wonder if this spark of revival could ignite into a flame strong enough to endure the trials yet to come. Could he navigate this uncharted territory, facing both their past and the new challenges Rachel would inevitably present? As he walked out of the restaurant, one thought gripped him tightly. Would love be enough to bind their fractured hearts? Or would it all unravel once again? Jake sat in his car, the familiar sounds of the city surrounding him. Horns blared, people rushed by, but his mind was stuck in the moment he just left behind. Rachel's words echoed in his head like a haunting refrain. This has to be on my terms. What did that mean? How long would it take for her to open her heart again? Starting the engine, he drove aimlessly. He should have felt happy about just having a chance, but worry churned in his stomach. He was committed to earning Rachel's trust. But how? Every corner he turned reminded him of what they lost in their journey together. Memories flooded in, sunsets spent wrapped in each other's arms, inside jokes whispered in the quiet hours of the night. Now it felt like a distant film playing in his mind. "Get it together, Jake," he muttered to himself, gripping the steering wheel tightly. This was a chance to rebuild, not relive the past. He didn't want to lose her again, especially with a baby involved. She needed a partner, not another liability. Pulling into a nearby park, he parked his car beneath a canopy of sycamore trees. The vibrant green leaves danced with the soft breeze, and he stepped out to stretch. The air was fresh, urging him to breathe deeply and clear his head. He walked towards the small lake, a sense of calm starting to wash over him. It was funny how a place that used to symbolize so much of their happiness could now serve as a backdrop for his introspection. He picked up a small stone, tossing it into the water. Ripples spread out, each one signifying a different possibility. What if I focus on being the best version of me? For us? He wondered aloud. With each passing day, he would need to prove that he was worthy of a second chance. He had no clue how. Glancing at his phone, he saw missed calls from his mother. Her voice grew more worried with each voicemail. She'd always had a knack for sensing when he was struggling. Having her around could stabilize him, but he hesitated. What would he even say? "Hey, Mom, I'm trying to win back my ex-wife because we're having a baby." Would she understand? It felt too raw, too heavy. Instead, he sent her a quick text. "Not doing great, but I'm working on it." As he hit send, he felt a knot in his stomach ease just a little. Leaving the park, Jake's thoughts shifted back to Rachel. What if he could sway her by being involved? He could learn everything he needed to know about parenting, maybe even surprise her with sweetness along the way. Perhaps he could take a cooking class or attend prenatal classes, something that showed he was serious. Arriving home, he wandered through his empty house, the echoes of silence amplifying his thoughts. He opened every pantry, knowing it wouldn't fill the void just a little more. Each corner reminded him of the laughter, the warmth Rachel once filled it with. His laptop sat on the kitchen table, and after a moment's hesitation, he pulled it open. He typed "online parenting classes" and hit enter. But as the search results flooded the screen, a notification chimed. A new message from Rachel. Heart racing, he opened it. "I'm giving you a chance, but I'm not sure how to let you in. Can we talk tomorrow?" Jake's heart soared and sank all at once. This was it, the confirmation he needed. But what if he couldn't convince her? What if he wasn't enough after all? As he paced the floor, his resolve hardened. He would show her not just a man ready to change, but the man she once knew. And maybe, just maybe, that love would light a way through the shadows. How could he take this small opening and turn it into a grand opportunity for them both? The challenge of tomorrow loomed closer, and Jake wasn't sure if he was ready for it. But he had to try, for Rachel, for their baby. It was time to turn hope into action and face together whatever came next. Could he truly find a path back to the woman he loved, or would it lead to another heartache? Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, his thoughts racing. The clock ticked loudly in the silence, each second stretching into an eternity. Rachel's message replayed in his mind, a bittersweet mixture of hope and anxiety. A chance to talk was one thing, but actually reaching her was another mountain to climb. As dawn broke, spilling soft light across his bedroom, Jake decided he needed to be proactive. He jumped out of bed and made a mental checklist of how to prepare for their conversation. He couldn't walk in empty-handed, not after everything. He needed a plan that showed Rachel he was serious, both about his commitment and about being there for their child. With a determined heart, he headed straight to the grocery store. It felt almost absurd at first, but preparing a meal felt like a good way to start the day. Cooking was a universal language they both spoke. He was no gourmet chef, but he could whip up something decent. Maybe a comforting pasta dish tonight would help satisfy not just hunger, but also build a bridge across the chasm of uncertainty between them. Navigating through the aisles, he picked up fresh herbs, vegetables, and sauces. Each selection reminded him of past dinners they'd shared. Twinkling lights and wine glasses clinking, a world that felt forever out of reach. But he couldn't dwell on memory. He needed to focus on creating new experiences. After gathering the ingredients, he returned home and went straight to work. The aroma of sautéing garlic filled his small kitchen, mingling with freshly chopped basil. As he stirred the sauce, he envisioned Rachel standing beside him, laughing at his amateur cooking skills, perhaps playfully insisting on taking over. The image brought a smile to his face, and he fought back the urge to overthink, reminding himself that today was about being authentic. As he worked, he played soft music in the background, something that reminded him of simpler times, songs that made both of them sway together in the living room. He wished he could fast forward into their future, a time when they would look back at today and realize it was a pivotal moment, a turning point for the better. When the meal was finally ready, he set the table in his dining room, deliberately choosing their favorite plates and glasses. He even left a space for her in the center, a visual reminder that this was about more than just food. It symbolized the heart of it all, a hope for connection, for forgiveness, for trust. Jake paced around, checking the clock. It was nearly time for her to arrive. The anticipation made his heart race. He felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. What if she walked in and couldn't see the effort? What if she remembered only the failures of their past? He drove himself crazy with possibilities, each scenario worse than the last. Just before Rachel was due to arrive, his phone buzzed. A text notification pulled him from his spiral of doubt. He glanced down and saw a message from Rachel. "I'm here." Time seemed to freeze for a moment. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight settle on his shoulders. This was it. No turning back now. He opened the door, ready to face whatever emotions lay ahead, a chaotic mix of hope and fear swirling inside him. But she didn't come alone. Standing next to her was someone he hadn't expected, a tall figure with kind eyes and a welcoming grin, a stranger who looked all too comfortable standing beside the woman Jake loved. "Jake, this is my friend Mark," Rachel said, her voice steady yet tinged with something he couldn't quite place. His heart sank. Who was this guy? And why was he here now, at the moment when he needed Rachel to himself most? Jake put on a brave face as they exchanged greetings, but inside, a new kind of worry set in. Would Rachel lean toward Mark? Would his presence throw everything off balance? Questions flooded his mind as his resolve began to waver. Rachel's eyes met his, contemplation swirling within them. Jake couldn't help but wonder how everything would unfurl from here. Would this stranger stand in the way of what he had hoped to rebuild, or could he somehow turn the tide in his favor? As the evening began, it was clear that this was about to become much more involved than he'd anticipated, and he wondered if he was truly ready for the storm ahead. Would his plans be enough, or have they already become a mere recipe for heartache? Jake swallowed hard, forcing a smile. This was meant to be their moment, and now Mark was here like an uninvited guest at a wedding. He tried to focus on Rachel's face, catching the warmth in her eyes, but the presence of Mark loomed like a storm cloud. "Hey," Jake said, his voice steady, though he felt a tempest brewing inside. "Nice to meet you, Mark." "Likewise." Mark's voice was bright and cheerful, a stark contrast to Jake's growing anxiety. "I've heard a lot about you. Rachel speaks very highly of you." Jake's insides twisted at that. Had Rachel shared how he had let her down? Did Mark know all the ways he'd failed her? Rachel slid into a chair at the table, the spot Jake had set for her. She looked around, noticing the light from the candles flickering softly, the aroma of garlic and basil wafting through the air. It was clear she appreciated the effort, but the moment felt different now, under pressure. "Wow, it smells amazing in here," Rachel exclaimed, a genuine smile lighting up her face. But the easy exchange felt muddied with every passing second, a thin veil of awkwardness hanging in the air. Jake took a seat across from her, trying to understand how to navigate this new, complicated dynamic. Mark settled in beside Rachel, radiating ease with each natural comment he made about the meal, the decor, even the music Jake had chosen. Jake forced himself to participate. Thanks. Just something I threw together. I wanted it to feel special. Mark leaned back in his chair, casually engaging Rachel in conversation. So, how did you two meet? He asked with genuine curiosity. Jake felt a flash of irritation. Was Mark really trying to get to know Rachel's history? The past felt like a tangle of mistakes Jake wished he could rewrite. He clenched his jaw, unwilling to let his emotions spill over. We met a few years back, Rachel began, her voice trailing off as she glanced at Jake, gauging his reaction. She took a breath, like a tightrope walker testing her balance. It was a whirlwind, really. Jake couldn't help but think of their laughter-filled evenings, the whispered dreams they had shared. Memories now mingled with anxious uncertainty. Would they recover those moments? Or were they lost forever to a future where Mark had a role he hadn't anticipated? Silence settled awkwardly as the conversation shifted between the three of them. Jake tried to insert his thoughts, keen to remind Rachel of the intimacy they once shared, but every attempt felt stunted. Rachel was smiling at Mark, genuinely, and it ignited something inside Jake, a spark of jealousy. He wanted her to look at him that way again, to remember the nights they spent curled up on the couch, talking about everything and nothing. The easy connection felt like a distant memory as he felt the walls around his heart start to rebuild. Jake's actually an amazing cook. He made this incredible dinner for us when we first started dating, Rachel said, her voice softening as she turned back to him. Jake felt a flicker of hope in her words. Right. I used way too much garlic, though. He chuckled nervously, grateful for the brief moment that felt like a connection. Mark picked at his meal, seemingly unconcerned with the emotional current swirling around. Hear that? We should have a cooking challenge sometime. What do you think, Rachel? Jake's gut nodded again. Was this guy really trying to make little jokes with her? He fought against the urge to defend his territory, to remind Mark that he wasn't there just to slide back into Rachel's life. Rachel turned to Jake, her gaze steady. I'd love that. Jake's heart raced, not just from her words, but because it felt like a statement, a challenge. Everything hung on that moment. Could he keep fighting for what they had, or was this mark a sign that the past was slipping away from him? As plates were cleared away, Jake sensed a shift. Rachel seemed deeper in thought, gazing out the window, lost in the fading daylight. Jake inhaled, wishing the moment would solidify into something positive, yet he felt the crux of the matter right in his bones. Welcome back to my life, Jake, he whispered under his breath, ready for whatever twist awaited him next. Because despite the tension, one thing was certain. He wasn't ready to let her go without a fight. He turned to Rachel just as she glanced back at him, an unexpected glimmer of recognition sparking between them. We need to talk, she said, a hint of resolution in her tone that made Jake's heart race with equal parts fear and hope. The evening was far from over, and the real conversation was just about to unfold. What truths would emerge when they stripped away the layers of doubt? Would Jake be brave enough for what was to come? Jake's breath caught in his throat. We need to talk, Rachel said, her eyes locking onto his with a steady intensity. It felt as if the entire room had faded away, the laughter of Mark and the flickering candles dissolving into nothing. Now? Here? He managed to stammer, panic seeping into his voice. Yes. I think it's time, she replied, her confidence unwavering. There was something resolute in her tone that both terrified and thrilled him. Mark seemed to sense the shift, pausing mid-bite to glance between them. Hey, is everything okay? He asked, Genuine concern etched on his face. Jake forced a smile, masking the storm brewing inside. "Just a little catch-up chat," he said, trying to brush it off. Rachel's gaze didn't waver. "Maybe we could go somewhere private?" Jake felt the weight of his heart drop. Every muscle in his body tensed. Sure," he said, recognizing that this could change everything. He stood, but his knees felt weak as he motioned for Rachel to lead the way. They stepped out onto the tiny balcony that overlooked the street below, the chill of the evening air hitting them like a splash of cold water. The lights of the city twinkled in the distance, but all Jake could focus on was the warmth radiating from Rachel just a few steps away. "Jake," she started, a tremor in her voice that shot straight through him. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our past." The unspoken weight of everything hovered between them. Jake could sense the hesitation in her words. "And what's on your mind?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to understand why I needed space after—" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "After everything that happened between us." Jake clenched his fists at his sides, feeling an ache building in his chest. He remembered their arguments, the tears, how everything had seemed to unravel. "I get that I messed up, Rachel. But I want to make it right. I never stopped loving you." Tears shimmered in her eyes, and a crack formed in his composure. "Jake, that's what makes this so hard." He stepped closer, heart racing. "What do you mean?" She stuttered, searching for the right words. "I'm scared we can't go back to what we had. So much has changed." The panic surged in him again. "What do you mean by so much has changed? Is it Mark?" No, it's not just that. He's a friend, but—" She paused, pulling in a shaky breath. "I'm pregnant." Silence engulfed them. Jake felt as if the ground had given way beneath him. "Pregnant?" he echoed weakly, his mind racing down uncharted paths. She nodded slowly, tears spilling over. "I didn't plan this. I had hoped to figure things out before saying anything, but I owe you the truth." Jake's mouth went dry, each word hitting him like a punch. "And is it Mark's?" he dared to ask, even though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Rachel hesitated, her expression reflecting heartbreak and determination. "I don't know yet, but this changes everything, doesn't it?" Everything. A word that spiraled outwards into infinity, wrapping around their past, present, and the uncertain future that awaited them. "Rachel," he began, his mind frantically racing through memories, emotions, and the love he had thought was irrevocably lost. "What do we do now?" Rachel's eyes searched his, vulnerability sparkling along with fear. The weight of their connection hung thickly in the air. "Let's take it one step at a time," she suggested softly, her own resolve beginning to surface. But even as he nodded, a swirl of confusion reigned in his heart. Could he step back into this tangled mess of emotion? Could they really navigate this path together? The moment stretched, silent and heavy with possibility. Jake knew they stood at a crossroads, and somehow, everything depended on the decisions they would make next. Just as he was about to speak again, the ringing of Jake's phone sliced through the tension. They both jumped at the sound, and he glanced at the screen. It was his mother. Calling at this moment felt like a twist of fate. "Maybe I should take this," he said, a knot tightening in his stomach. Rachel nodded but didn't look away, her gaze steady on him, as if preparing for whatever lay ahead. "Just give me a second," he said, the adrenaline coursing through him. As he answered the call, the question lingered in the air. What new revelation was rushing toward them, and how would they face it together? Jake pressed the phone to his ear, the sound of his mother's familiar voice flooding his mind with a mix of comfort and dread. "Jake, I need to know how you're doing." Her voice was laced with an urgency that sent another wave of anxiety coursing through him. I'm okay, Mom. Just a little busy," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. His eyes flicked back to Rachel, who stood a few feet away, her expression a mix of worry and anticipation. "Busy? You've hardly called in weeks. Made any big decisions yet?" Decisions?" he echoed, stammering just a bit. What could he even tell her? How could he explain the whirlwind of chaos that had suddenly engulfed his life in just a matter of minutes? "I just want to make sure you're on the right path," she pressed, her tone softening. "I know things with Rachel have been complicated." Jake's heart dropped. The walls felt like they were closing in, echoing with the weight of the truth he wasn't ready to share. "Yeah, they have," he managed to mutter, casting one more glance at Rachel. "Do you love her?" His mother's question struck like a bolt of lightning, shocking him into silence. He felt the air thicken between him and Rachel, all unspoken words hanging like a heavy curtain. Did he still love her? The answer was there, swirling inside him. A fierce, emotional acknowledgement that made his chest tighten. "Mom, He swallowed hard, heart racing. This isn't just about love. There's so much more now." "What do you mean?" she asked, a sense of trepidation punctuating her voice. Rachel stepped closer, her presence grounding him amid the storm in his thoughts. "Rachel, she's pregnant," he finally said, every syllable heavy with the truth. Silence fell on the line, interrupted only by his mother fumbling for words. "Jake, oh my, that is a lot to handle." "I know," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "I can't even process this. She just told me." "It's a big decision to make. What you choose next." He rubbed the back of his neck and let out a shaky breath. "I have to figure out how to deal with this, but everything is so confusing right now. I don't even know if I can trust myself to make the right choice." "You need to talk to Rachel about everything. Don't let fear drive you away again, Jake." Her words struck a chord, resonating deeply in the pit of his stomach. He glanced at Rachel's face, a mosaic of worry and hope. She was standing there, waiting for him to decide something that could alter the path of their lives. As he swallowed hard, his voice turned quiet yet firm. "I will. Thanks, Mom. I'll keep you posted." He hung up the phone, the weight of his mother's words hanging in the air. He looked at Rachel, who was still watching him with those wide, hopeful eyes. "Your mom?" she asked, reading his expression. "Yeah, she's worried. About us," he admitted, feeling exposed. "But she said I should talk to you." Rachel's expression shifted, a flicker of relief breaking through her fear. "Good, because I think we need to be honest with each other. There's more at stake now." Jake nodded, feeling the urgency settle deep within him. "Okay, then let's talk. What do you really want? Us? The baby? Or maybe something else?" Rachel's gaze deepened. "I want to start fresh. But I also want to understand what this means for both of us. I want us to consider what's best for our future, together or apart." His heart raced with every word, knowing that each choice and each moment mattered now more than ever. But instead of clarity, doubt crashed over him. As he stood there, the tension thickening, he whispered, "So, what if we don't get this right?" Her eyes glistened, filled with gravity and hope. "Then we'll make a new path, together." But the uncertainties loomed like shadows, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was still ahead. What if this journey they were about to embark on would lead them to places they never expected? The room around them felt charged, electric with unsaid thoughts. As Jake took a deep breath, He could hear the faint hum of the restaurant, a backdrop of clattering dishes and soft conversations. It seemed like a world apart from the heavy reality they were embroiled in. Rachel's gaze held him, earnest and vulnerable, just begging for clarity. Starting fresh sounds great, but what does that really mean? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. What do you envision? Rachel's expression shifted, earnestness fading into concern. I just want to know we're both committed to whatever this is, to us, to the baby. She rubbed her hands nervously against her thighs, looking away for a brief moment. I mean, it's not like we planned this, Jake. Nothing is certain. Jake's heart sank. She was right. They were standing on uncertain ground. It was akin to standing on a tightrope stretched over a canyon, the fall looming far below. What if we're not ready? He murmured, the weight of unpreparedness making his throat close. How do we even figure out what's right? Rachel finally looked back at him, sadness etched across her features. I don't have all the answers. I don't even know what tomorrow looks like for me, for us. But I know we can't keep pretending everything is okay when it isn't. Maybe, Jake hesitated, weighing his words. Maybe we should think about what this actually means for our lives, for our families. He wasn't just referring to their parents. He thought of the dreams they once shared, the plans that now felt like distant echoes. Silence settled, heavy and profound. Rachel's eyes filled with unshed tears, a raw reflection of a storm brewing inside. I've always imagined a different timeline, Jake. I know you have too. But this is real, she said, her voice breaking just a little. He could see her struggle, the fight between hope and fear playing out like a silent film. They were two kids, once carefree, now stumbling towards adulthood with responsibilities rushing in like unexpected tidal waves. What if we decide to go through this against all odds? What does it mean career-wise? I work nights, you're busy with your internship. The timing feels off. Jake felt the anxiety clawing at his heart. Plus, our families, how will they react? They will have to understand, Rachel replied firmly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. This could be our chance to do something amazing if we choose to. A flutter of hope ignited in his chest, but Jake knew he couldn't rely solely on optimism to guide them. The insecurities, doubts, and hurdles were laid bare before them. They needed to navigate each with care. Whatever we choose, it's going to change us. We both know that, he finally said, the weight of realization settling in. And I guess we need to be sure we're in this together. Together. Her word felt like a promise, but just as the tension began to lift, a voice broke through their moment. Excuse me. It was Sarah, the waitress, approaching them with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Can I take your order? Jake caught Rachel's eye, an understanding passing between them. But before he could respond, Sarah continued, I've never seen you two here before. Is everything all right? Rachel hesitated but replied, We're just figuring things out. Turning back to Jake, Rachel's expression transformed into something resolute. We'll figure this out one way or another, she reassured him, but the uncertainty lingered in the air, unaddressed. As Sarah walked away, Jake felt the swell of possibility. Could they really face this together? He yearned for the clarity and strength they seemed to lack. With a newfound determination, he leaned in closer to Rachel. Let's not wait for everything to be perfect. Let's start carving our path now. But we need to be honest. Really honest, even if it hurts. Rachel nodded, her gaze steady. Okay, let's tackle this head on. But as she said it, he couldn't shake the feeling that their upcoming conversations could unravel or bind them like never before. Would they truly discover what they both wanted? Or would this path lead to more heartache than harmony? With every heartbeat, possibilities spiraled around them, teasing the edges of fear, hope, and the looming future. Could they confront the truth that lay in wait just around the corner? The minutes ticked by in silence, a thick tension wrapping around the booth where Jake and Rachel sat. He couldn't shake off the gnawing feeling in his gut. They were at a crossroads, and every decision felt monumental, like choosing between pathways that could lead to either a beautiful future or painful regrets. Outside, the bustling city felt alive and indifferent to their turmoil. The distant honking of cars blended into the background music of the restaurant, a reminder of how life continued outside their little bubble of uncertainty. Rachel fiddled with her phone, a distraction from the weight of their conversation. "I've been thinking," she started, pulling Jake from his spiraling thoughts, "about how we should share the news, with my parents, with yours. It's huge." "Yeah." Jake squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, processing the weight of her words. The thought brought a fresh wave of anxiety crashing over him. But will they understand? What if they blame us? What if they don't accept this? Rachel's face fell, a flicker of fear crossing her features. They have to understand. They're our families. This is as much about them as it is about us, Jake. They'll want to be there for us, right? They'll help us figure it out. Jake sighed deeply, reminded that this wasn't just about them anymore. If only it were that easy. What if they take sides? What if... He faltered, fear creeping into his voice. "Look, if we don't face it together, then what chance do we have at making this work?" Rachel's words were sharp, but they struck a chord of truth. They both needed allies in their corner, and vulnerability was the way to build that. The waitress returned with their drinks, and for a moment, they got lost in the mundane act of ordering food. But as soon as Sarah stepped away again, the air thickened, every second heavy with unvoiced hopes and fears. Jake's mind raced with memories of their past, the laughter, the carefree adventures, the dreams they had woven together. How different everything felt now. "Do you remember what we used to talk about after school? The plans we made for the future?" he asked, his voice laced with nostalgia. "How could I forget?" A small, wistful smile broke through the tension. "We were invincible back then." "Invincible," he repeated, the word hanging heavily in the air. It felt so distant now. But now... What if we don't know how to navigate this? What if we lose sight of each other along the way? Rachel reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We dive deeper into it. Together, remember? No matter how hard it gets, we don't turn our backs on each other. Okay?" The warmth of her hand sent a rush of comfort through him. Together. The word felt like a lifeline, yet an unshed doubt lingered. Was together enough? A few moments passed in silence. Their eyes locked, and something shifted between them. A shared determination, a flicker of hope. Was it enough to pull them through the looming storm? "Let's make a plan," Jake said suddenly, eyes sparking with newfound focus. "We need to talk to our families this weekend. No more stalling. We gather everyone and get it all out in the open. No more hiding." "Agreed." Rachel's surprise gave way to fierce resolve. "They need to know. We need to know what their feelings are and figure out how to move forward." As they discussed how to approach the unfolding reality, the restaurant buzzed around them, moments of laughter brushing against their serious tone. The atmosphere shifted, and with every word, they began to sculpt a fragile vision of their future. But the fear still loomed. Was it truly achievable? Just as hope surged, Jake spotted movement from the corner of his eye. A familiar figure crossing the restaurant. His heart dropped. "Oh no, Rachel. It's my mom." Rachel's face paled, her grip on his hand tightening. "What do we do?" The ground under them quaked, preparing for a shift they weren't ready for. Would this unexpected encounter further complicate their already tangled web? As Jake watched his mother walk toward them, energy crackling in the air, he felt frozen. "Just act normal," he whispered, but inside, everything felt anything but normal. Rachel sat stiffly, her face a mask of uncertainty. She shot him a glance, a silent plea for what to do next. "Jake!" His mother's voice cut through the noise, cheerful but with an undertone of concern that made his heart race. "How are you, sweetheart?" "Hey, Mom," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm good. Just having a meal with Rachel." The word felt strange on his tongue, loaded with a weight that felt heavy, yet familiar. Rachel offered a quick nod. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson," she said, her voice shaking ever so slightly. "Nice to see you." "Oh, Rachel, you look great." His mother smiled, but her eyes flickered with curiosity, sensing the tension hanging between them. "What are you both up to?" Jake's mind raced through fragments of their complicated conversation. This wasn't just a catch-up. For both of them, it was a pivotal moment. "Just catching up on life," he managed, feeling like he was lying, even though it felt true on some level. His mom's eyes narrowed slightly, listening intently as if she could sense the deeper truth swimming beneath the surface. "Is everything okay? You two seem different." Swallowing hard, Jake held Rachel's gaze. The intensity of their shared moment was palpable, filled with unspoken truths as he readied himself to take a leap. "Mom, we actually need to talk to you about something really important. Like, life-changing." Rachel's eyes widened as he spoke. Surprise and urgency mirrored in her expression. They could either seize this moment and face their truth, or let the fear continue to suffocate them. A wave of determination surged within Jake. "What do you mean?" His mother glanced back and forth between them, her brows knitting in concern. "What's going on?" Taking a deep breath, Jake felt the weight of 1,000 words compress into a singular moment. "Rachel's pregnant." His voice broke the silence, loud and clear, like the crack of a starting gun. His mother's expression shifted in an instant. Wide-eyed shock, followed by a rush of tumultuous emotions. "Pregnant?" she echoed, disbelief laced with concern. "Yes," Rachel added quickly, her voice steady even as she glanced at Jake, seeking reassurance. "And we need to face this together, with our families. We're hoping to gather everyone this weekend to discuss how to move forward." He could feel the weight of Rachel's hand in his grasp, an anchor as they both braced for the reactions ahead. "Wow, this is a lot," his mom admitted, running a hand through her hair, trying to process. "How did this happen?" Jake exchanged a quick glance with Rachel. It was the past, like a tide they were still learning how to navigate. Things just unfolded in ways neither of us expected. Today wasn't just about them. It was about opening the channels of communication. "We know this isn't ideal, but we need your support. We want to figure it out as a family." Rachel's firm grip on his hand felt reassuring. His mother's expression softened. She seemed to take them in, absorbing the gravity of the situation. "I can see you're both serious," she said quietly, a flicker of maternal instinct igniting in her eyes. "Your happiness matters to me. We will support you through this." Relief washed over Jake, but fear still lingered. "Thank you, Mom," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "We know it's a lot to ask." Rachel shared in the moment, squeezing Jake's hand like a lifeline, and he stole a quick glance at her, her determination shining wonderfully bright. "I just want to make sure you both understand the responsibilities that come with this. It's not just about the baby, it's about building a stable, loving future together," his mother cautioned gently. As her words sunk in, Jake felt a surge of clarity. "We're committed to doing that," Rachel said, her voice steady. "We want to be the best versions of ourselves, for the baby, and for each other." Another deep breath almost brought a sense of calm, jolting Jake back into the moment. "Thank you for being here. It means the world." Jake met Rachel's gaze, both feeling lighter, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Would their families embrace this challenge? Could they really navigate through this storm together? Another realization washed over him, stronger than fear, swelling with unwavering resolve. This was real. And despite the uncertainty, there was a spark of potential this could blossom into something more beautiful than they had ever imagined. "Let's face this together," Jake said, his gaze shifting from Rachel to his mother. "We can create a family, no matter how unconventional it may seem." His mother nodded, a reassuring smile breaking through the tension. "All right, we'll figure it out. I promise we'll get through this together." As they moved closer to a new beginning, Jake felt the tempest inside slowly finding calm. He had aimed to reshape the past, but amidst chaos and unclear roads, they had already begun to write a new narrative. "Are you ready?" Jake asked Rachel, and in that moment, he couldn't shake the notion that the seeds of hope were sprouting between them, ready to bloom. "Yes," she replied, her voice full of conviction. "Let's start this journey." Jake felt that tug of certainty building, a solid foundation ready to withstand the storms that lay ahead. It was time to embrace the next chapter, as messy and beautiful as it would surely be. And as they stood together, stepping into the unknown, it became clear that love could very well be the bond that would carry them through it all. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this journey. And don't wait. Not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand how vital it is to support our channel through these actions.